The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
You can't hear me.
Now I can.
Ah, there you go. How are you doing, my dear friend?
I'm doing well. How about you, Rob?
Well, let's see. I'm still here. I've thought that I might be abducted by aliens after my last hour of trying to make sense of what so many people can't make sense of. And that's reality.
But you're still here.
Yeah.
No abduction.
No. Saw some aliens, but they were Mexicans on the street. Now you've got a very interesting show. You've got two very interesting shows. One's a full-hour show, and the other's a segmented show that we call Vignettes. And the main show is called Mission Evolution. Tell us a little bit about Mission Evolution.
Well, Mission Evolution, it's misunderstood a lot because people think it's Darwinism. It couldn't be further from that. It was originally thought of by me because we're in the process of some really interesting and very rapid changes. And I think that, everything changes. You either evolve or devolve, right? And so the show was designed to bring leading edge people, experts, scientists, and mediums, and people that work with esoteric information as well, to make sense of what's going on right now and to give us tools to transcend these times together. So that's what prompted this show, and it's been a lot of fun. I've met some amazing people and some really deep thinkers and scholars. It's just been wonderful to do the show.
So is there hope in this time, Gwilda, that that we can make sense of it, that we can progress, and that we're not doomed to fail like we always do as a human race?
Well, we're still alive, so we haven't totally failed, right? It can look pretty challenging right now because we are in a time of transition, and it's been prophesized by every indigenous culture, by different religions, this and that, and the New Age people took it and kind of ran with it. But the problem with prophecy is people is the interpretation. Okay, we can only interpret things as from our perspective at the time, and as the times change, our perspective starts to change. Now, what we're really seeing is the transition from one age to another, which is one set of frequencies or influences, to another. And when that happens, chaos ensues because what was is no longer being supported, and that's what we're seeing right now. And so it's really, really easy to kind of lose hope and to fall into despair, and particularly when you're watching media and it's always the drama, the trauma, all these horrible things are happening. And don't get me wrong, they are. But the hope is, or not just the hope, but the light at the end of the tunnel is the
Hmm.
old is falling apart to make room for the new. And I believe that as human beings, we have the option to be team players in this, to be co-creators. So we have a chance here to really create something new and wonderful, or to go under with the tide. It's just really kind of up to us.
I can understand the concept where we're going from one age to the next, Golden, because, you look throughout history and the proof is in the pudding. But in today's changeover, we have COVID. We have people who are hungry around the world. We have unemployment that's starting to surge again. We have violence that is happening in places where violence was never an issue before. We have so much shoveled on top of us, the economy, the political. You can't blame people for just crying and saying, "Hey, enough is enough." So
Uh,
how so what are your experts saying?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to, but a lot of them
Hmm.
are saying that this is indeed times of transition, and what was being supported before is no longer sustainable. And we're seeing that on every front. I mean, global warming, the level of population, our water, our food, our climate, our everything is under extreme stress. And, it's really strong signals that this isn't going to work for too much longer. We better come up with some options. And that's what I've been hearing from my experts is that they're seeing this and they're
Hmm.
advocating different things that we can do to make that difference, to make that transition, to become a kinder, gentler, more sustainable race.
But doesn't the effects of this change actually adding fuel to the fire on why people are being so negative? Because when you look at the big picture, my lord, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. So how
Yes.
can how can how can people actually look at what is happening now and put a smile on their face and say, "Oh well, it's going to get better."
Well, we can make it better. And I think that's one of the things that's the other hallmark of what the people I've
Hmm.
been talking to is it's about personal empowerment. We aren't victims of this, but we're certainly participants. And if we're unconscious participants, we're adding to the problem. If we work with the times and we work with the raising frequency and we get introspective and start removing ourselves from the patterns within that have propagated the damage to
Hmm.
ourselves, each other, the planet, then we can start stepping back and seeing it with a clearer eye. Right now, one of the main things that I advocate is don't trust your perceptions. Don't trust what you're seeing. Don't trust what you're hearing because it's only partially true. We're all looking through our own filters. There's been generations of damage and
Hmm.
propaganda, and we don't see clearly. So kind of leaving the jury out and sitting back with it and going, okay, this is what it looks like to me right now, but what is it really? And to every positive, negative, there's a positive. I don't mean be Pollyannish, but if it seems really, really, really black, okay, so what's the other side of this coin? Really entertaining that because everything we're going to be told is going to be the drama, the trauma, the negative side, because that's what sells. And that's not all the only thing that's going on. There's both sides going on. And if we are paying attention to only the dark, we're actually supporting
Hmm.
it. We're putting our energy into it. And I don't mean dark. I just mean
Sure.
the downside, if you will, the trauma. And we are going through trauma, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't rocket science. We have not been living sustainably for years.
Well, the sustainability of the planet and what people are going through, in my opinion, are two direct different things. For example, you've got people who are losing their homes because of the interest rate and the housing crisis that was caused by COVID, and then the onslaught of COVID variations that are still affecting us today. People just can't make ends meet. So how can we put this on the side of anything else except a bigger problem than we see?
Well, there is, like you say, I won't argue. There are even larger problems, and I think the ramifications. Everybody said, "Okay, COVID's over. We're on top of this thing. Now we can get back to normal." There, we're not going
No.
to get back to normal. Normal's gone. What we thought was normal. We have to create something new because everything has changed, and we're just starting to see the edge of the ramifications of, not just the pandemic, but
Yeah.
everything that's going on.
So, when you're talking to your guests, what are some of the suggestions that they've given you to share with your listeners and your viewers?
Well, one of the things that seems to be a common theme is the inner work. And I can certainly understand that because that's been my focus, for years. Is that if you can become clear in here, then you have a better chance of being clear out there and holding a sane perspective amongst the crazy. And I don't mean crazy people; I just mean crazy circumstances. That there are certain principles that hold true and have held true for generations. And if you can start to ground yourself in that and let the rest of it fly by, then you can find your way through this. But it's unprecedented, and we don't have anything to go on, and people are freaking out because of that. So the inner work is really, really important because ultimately, if our perceptions are wrong, how can we make right choices? If our perceptions are distorted, how can we make the right choices to move through this in a good way, in a way that serves everyone?
Let's talk about perceptions when we come back from this commercial break. And Explanation, if you'd like to find out more about Gwilda, visit her websites. And the one for Mission Evolution is www.missionevolution.org. And for Stairway to Heaven, stairwaytoheavenmedia.com. I'm Rob McConnell, GWILDA WIYAKA, and I will return on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Do you enjoy paranormal, sci-fi romance, yet find yourself tired of the same old themes and storylines? Then you won't want to miss Kahira O'Donnell's latest exciting release, To Taste You Again. Alien Lord Cain McKean knew the moment that his destined mate was born. He watched from afar, waiting for her to grow from child to woman. However, before she was old enough, she was stolen from her home world by flesh pirates. Cain searched 10 long years to find her held in a suspension chamber, a 10-year-old girl in a woman's body. He rescued her and swore to give her time to grow up, but with his very life depending upon winning her as a mate, has he waited too long? Get your copy today. To Taste You Again by Kahira O'Donnell is now available on Amazon or KahiraO'Donnell.com. Welcome back, everyone. Gwilda WIYAKA is my guest this hour. And Gwilda, you're a shaman. And I know that you offer shamanistic courses on your website at findyourpathhome.com. First of all, how would you describe what a shaman is?
Well, there's, over the ages, the concept of what shamanism, and it's an ancient practice, 50 to 60,000 years old. And it's present at the base of every culture we have, as far as I know. So like there's Tibetan shamanism, there's Celtic shamanism, there's Native American shamanism, there's Inuit shamanism, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And I've traveled a lot and have been fortunate enough to study a lot of the different forms, and they have an amazing amount of things in common. And so I'm going to be speaking to what they do have in common. And to a one, they're an organized set of rituals designed to help the practitioner manage matter at the quantum level or work at the energetic level of life. And, when we're trying to heal or trying to make a difference in our lives, we tend to work on the physical level. But by the time things are manifest, they're pretty well set in stone and kind of unwieldy and hard to maneuver around and change. But if you can interface with them and impact them at the frequency level before they become manifest, you can really affect outcome much more easily. And that's what shamanism is based on. It can also, from the energetic standpoint, read the currents that are moving and make predictions based on those currents that are moving. So, like, say, for instance, if I want to have a question answered, I can go into trance, and I have to be very careful how I ask the question, and be very clear that my intent and my bottom line is very clearly established. I'll journal those first. But then it's like going into a dream state, and I'll get metaphors, and then I have to apply the metaphors to the question. So it's a real learned art, but it can be very, very accurate. And I've used it to I used it to choose the land I'm living on. Used it to design and build the house I'm living in, and the outcome has been pretty amazing. How well it all works. And that's the way the ancients got their information and built their things and knew where the game was and everything else. And so it's a skill that can be used today when everything is so up in the air and unprecedented. We can't rely on doing things the way we used to because the old ways aren't working. And this is an old practice, but what it can do is access the currents that are moving now and give us some kind of guidelines as to where's the sweet spot on the wave we're riding as individuals. And it's always based on what we intend to do. So, again, it's empowering that way.
So, shamanism goes back many, many, many years. Is there a common thread between all the different regions where shamanism developed? For example, in the jungles of Brazil, are the ways of a shaman the same as they would be up with a First Nations shaman up here in Canada?
There's an amazing amount of similarities between all of them. Like, the Aboriginals, they've been on this island, basically, on the other side of the world, isolated, and yet in their caves have the same symbols, like the sacred spiral, the four directions. They have the same symbols that you find in the drawings on the earth and the cliffs and everything, the petroglyphs here in the United States and in Canada. And there was a gentleman, he was an archaeologist, actually, an anthropologist, Michael Harner, and he went around and collected shamanic practices from all over the planet and put together what they had in common and created what he called the core practice. He's since crossed to the other side, but he left quite a body of work that was very amazing. And he developed a method, by which you can use these rituals and consistently go into an altered state, get information, go in an altered state, perform a healing. And all of the things that he saved there, the things that he used to create the practice he calls core shamanism, were common to every one of the shamanic practices. So the journey trance, altered state of consciousness, is measurable, by the way. I've had all sorts of gum put in my hair because I used to work with doctors all the time, and they were fascinated. So they wanted to see what happens to my brain waves when I go on a journey. And consistently, I would drop from the day-to-day of beta to alpha and even theta, and then come back out at will by using the ritual. And every practice has some form of that, some form of going into an altered state of consciousness to access information.
So are we to understand that 50,000 years ago, when shamanism first started, it was the Neanderthals that created shamanism?
I think that they relied on a shamanic form, okay, to find their game, to survive, quite frankly. And it's simple, and yet it's very complex. So I've watched animals kind of go into this, they dream just like we do, and they, cats particularly, you watch them kind of go into this altered state, and you just kind of feel that they're tapped into something else. And so why wouldn't the Neanderthals? I think that it's a natural human ability that we have thought ourselves out of. We got so left brain, so focused on this reality that we disconnected from our dreams. We disconnected from the dream state. And whether they're waking dreams, daydreams, interactive dreams. There's information there that you don't get otherwise.
So, how could we apply shamanism in our day-to-day life right here in the year 2022?
Well, it's been the way I've lived for, oh gosh, 50 some odd years, is anytime I have a major decision to make,
Hmm.
I'll go into journey, I'll go into trance, and I'll have a question laid out like, what does it look like if I do it this way? What does it look like if I do it that way? And I'll get metaphors that'll indicate one thing or another. And then I'll make my choice based on that. I don't ask spirit, if you will, or the energies that be, or the dream state, to make my decisions for me. That's always a mistake, because their value judgments, or the value judgments there, are very different than what we have in this reality. But I can get inside information, if you will, of what the larger currents are working and how to fit within it. So I use that all the time. Like I said, I designed and built my house around the principles
Yeah.
that was given and everything. And it's, it works. It works.
So,
The
so
other
where
side,
where
right?
did you learn how to be a shaman?
Well, I first studied with a Lakota elder when I was in my early 20s. And I studied with him. I went to the reservation and stayed with him on the weekends, and worked for and with him.
Hmm.
I would bring coffee and I would clean their house, and in exchange for his teachings. And I worked with him 8 years until he crossed. He was in his, I think he was in his 90s when he crossed. And it saved my life, quite frankly, because I was born kind of sensitive, and then I lived in a very intense situation, family wise and everything else, that I had to, as a child, I really had to know who was going to pop off next to be safe. And so I really cranked up my sensitivity, but then I didn't know how to turn it down. So by the time I met my first teacher, I was, empathing everything around me. I was overwhelmed by everybody else's emotions. I was in college, and it was just, being in the dorm was just too much. So finding this practice helped me find the discipline to be able to listen when I needed to, but to turn it off when I didn't, just for starters. And then all the other skills that I learned. And by the time he crossed, I felt like, I just don't have enough. And he had told me that, he was teaching me the way of his people, but I had to
Hmm.
find the way of mine. So I'm part Native American, but I'm also part Celtic. So the next place I studied, of course, was Celtic shamanism. And it's a fascinating form as well. And then I, went on to study everybody I could lay my hands on: Choctaw, Arapaho, Tibetan, Celtic. I just studied every form of shamanism I could get my hands on. Finally
But
ran
what?
across
But what?
Michael
What were
Harner's
you?
group and studied with them.
What were you? What were you searching for?
I was
It
searching for
sounds like you were on a quest.
I was searching for a way to manage what I am and be in this world, um, to start out with. And
Right.
then I became so fascinated with the complexity of the form and the far-reaching effects that it has. Then I was sold. I just had to just keep exploring, and I explore to this day.
All right, my little exploring friend, you and I have to take a break. Exonation, our guest this hour is GWILDA WIYAKA. And if you would like to find out more about GWILDA, her website is www.missionevolution.org. And for the Stairway to Heaven, her website is www.stairwaytoheavenmedia.com. And if you'd like to listen to GWILDA's past shows, just go to www.xzbn.net, find GWILDA's name, click on the button, and all her shows are there for you to enjoy. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone with our broadcast center and studios in, where? St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. SIMULTV.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a SimulTV.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about SimulTV.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about SimulTV.com. SIMULTV.com.
Gwilda WIYAKA is my guest to this hour, X-Zone Nation. And Gwilda, I was talking to a group of people the other day, and we all had the same thing in common. We all feel run down. We feel as if every ounce of energy has just been sucked out of us. And, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're a teenager, whether you're a young adult, whether you're middle-aged or a senior citizen. Everybody is feeling this run down, this total exhaustion. No matter how long they sleep, they still wake up and they're totally exhausted. Is this part of what we're going through with this change?
Yes, it really is. And I've had a lot of reports from my clients and students of the same thing, and experienced it myself. We have, as was prophesized, you know, like the Mayans talked about the era of the white sun. And it's a time when the sun is really, really active. And of course, we're in that time right now. And Dr. Dmitriev said, he's a Russian scientist, said it was because we're moving into a part of the galaxy where everything's more highly charged, charging the leading edge of the sun's heliosphere, which is feeding it into the planet through the electromagnetic fields. But regardless of the cause, basically the frequency is rising very, very quickly. And what that does is it puts great pressure on our physical being. It puts great pressure on any place that we're not streamlined. And that's why I was talking about the internal work. So if you have a bunch of denials, if you have a bunch of patterns, if you have a bunch of avoidances, you don't channel well. Your system is compromised. And it's like, you know, having a gold wire for your speakers versus, you know, steel wire. The steel wire is going to heat up and it's not going to transmit the frequency as clearly as a gold wire will. Well, physically, we've really bogged ourselves down with our food, our lifestyles, and kind of lost contact with the planet. So our frequency isn't automatically raising with the planet because we're kind of detached from it. And so it's there's this frequency discrepancy between the ambient frequency and what we can manage. And it's just exhausting, absolutely exhausting. Plus, we have two choices right now. We can either go introspective and process and find the places that are blocking us and process them out and, you know, work with them. Or we have to shove them further into denial. And the more we go into denial, the harder it is to hold that. So it's even more exhausting. Plus, the pressure starts building, and pretty soon we start destabilizing. And that's what you're seeing is a lot of people destabilizing and doing really crazy things. More so, like you brought up, more so than in times past.
Let's talk about the courses that you offer through Find Your Path Home. What can students that come to you seeking the same knowledge that you sought many years ago? I think that you have done a lot of the research already, so they don't have to go through all the trials and tribulations that you have done. So what can they learn, and how do you teach it?
Okay, so the classes that I have online now, I do online classes in person, but I also have recorded video classes that are available on my website, and I'm going to be addressing those right now. So the first one is called the Medicine Wheel, and what it does is it again uses, I don't appropriate ceremony, but I build ceremony out of the principles that are common to all practices that I've studied. And what this practice does, the first class, is it teaches you how to reconnect with the planet, how to reconnect with the seasons, the equinoxes, the solstices, how to do ceremony at auspicious times in order to realign with the frequency that the planet is bringing forth from the sun and from the circumstances that we're in, so that you can realign yourself and have less pressure on you. Okay. And it also backs your intent then. If you're aligned with the earth, it's bigger than we are. You're empowered by it. If you're
Hmm.
working against it and you're out of alignment, that's part of the exhaustion we've been facing. So that first class teaches a lot of really wonderful skills and ceremonies on earth connection and earth alignment. The second class is a journey class, and it teaches you how to do the shamanic journey trance, which I talked about earlier. It helps you to you can ask questions at the beginning level. You can ask questions to guide your life and get very accurate answers. And then the third class, I believe, is about power animals, and that is how to work. Power animals are a metaphor, okay, but working with the metaphors and empowering your life through the frequency that they represent. So a power animal will stand for a frequency that you might be lacking. So if you align with the frequency that the animal carries, then it helps you to become more balanced and aligned and empowered. And so that's the power animal class. Then there's sacred space, which teaches you how to work with the power and balance and space within your home and business and everything else. And then there's, I believe, fairy folk, which is a very fascinating class. It's a little more Celtic in its nature. So earth spirits and fairy folk. So those are the ones that I have
Wow.
online that you can purchase that are pre-recorded. And then periodically I teach in person.
So, how long would it take for someone listening to take your course, and can they become a shaman like you?
I like to call myself a shamanic practitioner. In other words, I do the practice. Shaman to me are like your indigenous people that were born to it. They come from a family line
Hmm.
that has the predisposition and this and that. But yes, they can learn to be a shamanic practitioner, just depending on how long they want to study. If they take the classes that I have online, just I have 5 of them right now, they can become fairly proficient at having it to use in their personal lives. If they want to become a healer, then they have to take more advanced classes, and I offer those periodically. And I used to offer and will offer again a 2-year program whereby they can become shamanic practitioners to the level that they can do shamanic healing, they can do soul retrieval, they can help the dead to cross, they can do medical intuitive. There's all sorts of skills that you learn in more advanced studies. But it's every bit as complex as being a medical doctor, so you can't take it lightly.
What is soul retrieval?
Soul retrieval is you never lose your soul. I don't even like the name, but it's one people most often use, so I use it. But when we are faced with trauma, we tend to disconnect from part of our natural expression in order to survive. In other words, if I get yelled at by a parent, they get triggered and get really angry with me for showing too much joy, okay, or crying or whatever. And then I will learn to not express my grief or not express my joy in order to stay safe and get along in the family. Well, that compensation then stays with us if we don't re-examine it. And we have literally lost part of our expression. And that's called soul loss. And what you do as a shamanic practitioner, we're energy masters. We go in and find the frequency that the person is disconnected from, like a broken key on a piano. We find the frequency they've disconnected from, bring it back, and teach them how to realign with it. And then they have those abilities back on deck.
So, when you were saying energy masters, are you talking about the same sort of mastering energy that they use in Reiki?
Reiki, the form of Reiki is a simple part of shamanic form. They're using, but that is a form of energy mastery. They're using their bodies to
Hmm.
channel positive and negative between their hands to bring balance back to the physical body. It's a lovely practice, and it's also based on shamanic practices, ancient practices. I do that kind of healing, but I was never trained in Reiki. I came in through the shamanic way. Um, so yes, there's also, well, like mediums can access the spirit of the dead, if you will. And that's a whole nother topic. Maybe you and I can get into another time. But so yes, it is energy mastery in that you learn to interface with the energetic level and how to manipulate the energetic level.
Another topic that you were speaking about that caught my ear was helping people cross over. How do you do that? Like when somebody's dying, they're dying. So how do you help them?
Well, it's very, very interesting. It depends on the circumstance. It's as different as every circumstance. And I've been a death doula. I sit with the dying very often. I'm called to do that. And some people, they know their way. They're going to go, right? But other people, maybe they are afraid of the kind of life they lived, and they believe in the heaven and hell. And, so they're kind of afraid to go. And they'll fight death and suffer quite a bit. And what I do is I talk them into a shamanic trance and then help them find their way out of their body to what we call the crossover point, which is simply a higher frequency level where they can re-engage with the unified field. And that's what crossing over is. But then I'll bring them back. And so once we've gone back and forth a couple times, they usually will go, okay, I'm out of here. I see it. And it's not as scary as I thought. And it's very much like what you hear in near-death experiences. It's beautiful, and it'll show up to the person depending on their belief systems. If I'm helping a Catholic cross, the angels will come, the virgins will come for an Arab. I mean, it's pretty fascinating how the metaphors will fit with the person's belief system, but it's still the same thing.
Fascinating. Stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. And X Zone Nation, Gwilda and I will return as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. To be accosted in her bed and abducted by aliens was the last thing Michelle expected. Yet the fateful morning of her destined death changed everything. Lord Lan Ramos, Alpha King of Vidar, the monstrous befanged alien looming over her bed, was her destined mate come to save her from certain death. He is a telepathic mute shifter. Can Michelle accept him and his animal? Once on Lan's home planet, Michelle becomes increasingly psychic, revealing her as the fabled Oracle of Vidar. As factions conspire to destroy them, will they overcome mounting threats? Will Michelle's growing gifts save them, or ultimately destroy her? Don't miss this sci-fi shifter romance with charismatic and engaging characters. Get your copy today. The Oracle of Vidar, available on Amazon or CahiraO'Donnell.com. That's CahiraO'Donnell.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Gwilda WIYAKA is with us this hour. She is the host of Mission Evolution on the X Zone Broadcast Network and X Zone TV, as well as Stairway to Heaven. How would you describe Stairway to Heaven?
Stairway to Heaven, again, is designed to bring the latest currents, or how the latest thing is affecting us. And I noticed, for years when I've been working with students and with
Hmm.
clients, and with my own experience, that there'll kind of be a theme that runs through things. I'll have, 6, 7 different clients with a different variation of the same theme going on at a particular time. And I started noticing this and kind of tracking it and following it. And I realized that, I've come to realize that the currents, that the frequency, the rising frequency on the planet is bringing forth different things at different times, but they have a theme. And so I started writing the Stairway to Heaven episodes. In fact, you were the one that suggested that I start bringing them forward. We brought them forth on radio first, and then start filming them. But every week, based on what my journeys are showing me, what I'm
Hmm.
experiencing, what I'm hearing from my clients, and this and that, I'll be discussing the theme, how it's affecting us, and how we can weather it, and how we can find our way through it. So that's what they're about, and they're really fun. They're very um, quite a collection now. What do we have? 63, 64 now at
I,
this point.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What is your favorite topic? As a talk show host, I have my favorite topics. And what are your favorite topics?
Whew, that's a tough one. There's so many topics. My favorite, of course, is
Give me
whatever's
your
going on at the time. So,
Give me your top three.
okay. Um, I really love anything that has to do with empowering people. So, how we can let go of what we think we are, but we are not, and engage the glory of who we really are. And most people don't know who they are. And we're a work in process for sure if we're, evolving and trying. Um, but to watch people go, oh, that's what's happening, and now I can. Okay, that makes my life worthwhile. I love that, to see people take it and run. So that's one of
See
my
that
favorite.
see that aha moment, the light over their head as it goes on.
Yes, exactly. And they might have something they've been suffering with
Hmm.
forever, and just the right word at the right time, or the right concept at the right time, and they're on their own. They're on a run. They're good to go. It's really fun to watch.
With your show, Mission Evolution, you've had some great guests on. Who's your guest tomorrow?
Ooh, let me see. Bill is his first name, and
Right?
I'm trying to think of his last name. I'm sorry, we have so many guests, but
It's okay.
he's a lovely man. I was just visiting with him today, getting his equipment set up because we'd
Hmm.
had some difficulty. But his topic is bugs as food, which
Oh, wait a second. Hold
you.
on here. Hold on here. You know, a couple of years ago, I would have thought, ugh. But you know what? There's more and more TV programs talking about how eating bugs may be the answer to the world hunger situation.
It's amazing. I
Yeah,
remember when I was in Saudi Arabia,
yeah.
I was in one of those times when it was like your epic biblical plague of locusts. I
Hmm.
mean, first there's this smell, and there was never a cloud in the sky there. So then all of a sudden there's this dark cloud coming your way, and it's like, oh my goodness. And then there's the sound. And then they would cover everything in the encampment, everything green, and devour it. And when they flew, there was nothing but sticks left. Okay. And we were out in the middle of the desert, and it was an artificial oasis. They pumped
Hmm.
water in and to keep the Americans happy. But when the Arabs that worked in the encampment, when I was a little kid, I was just absolutely horrified. They'd be grabbing them out of the tree and putting them in a bag. And I'd ask them, because I spoke Arabic, "Oh, what are you doing? What? You're no way you're going to be able to catch all these and make them quit eating the trees." They said, "No, good to eat." And
Oh, Lord.
oh,
Oh, Lord.
but it makes sense.
It does.
During a locust plague, what's left to eat but the locusts?
Yeah, in fact, one of my favorite TV celebrities is Chef Gordon Ramsay. I think that he is just fantastic. And he's been, I forget the name of this show he does, but he travels all over the world. And, some people have actually gotten him to eat grubs, to eat spiders. I'm sorry, like, mind you, you don't know what you're going to do if you're ever that hungry. Like people in Asia eat cats and dogs. Personally, I love eating cow. I love my steak. I love my steaks so raw that, we pass a herd of cows and I start drooling and imagining filet mignon and New York cuts, rump roast, even liver. I love eating cow.
Well, they are taking up about a third of our resources to grow them. However,
thank God. Thank God. God must be. Well, listen. Hey, Jesus was a shepherd, right? Mm-hmm. He liked lamb. I like cow.
I like them both.
Can you just imagine going to? Can you just imagine going to McDonald's in the future and saying, "Can I get a McLocus, please?" Oh, heavens.
Well, it's all the preparation and presentation, right?
Or how would you like your cockroach cooked, sir? Or don't worry about bathing your dog for fleas. We'll just suck them up and eat them right here. Have you ever noticed when you're on the show long enough, we totally digress? Have you ever noticed that?
I know it. I think we bring out the devil in both of us.
Okay, on a serious note, what did you do with Bigfoot?
Well, I think the bear ran him off. The bear was here again last night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't believe you.
Okay, I confess. I've got him tied up in the back room.
In the bathroom?
In the back room.
Oh, back room. I'm not even going to go there. I really am not.
That's probably wise.
So your courses are available online at findyourpathhome.com.
Mm-hmm.
Your show is Mission Evolution. It's available online at missionevolution.org, and it's available. I know it's being played on a regular basis on Simul TV on the X Zone TV channel. All your shows are available on xzbn.net. And I know that your Mission Evolution and your Stairway to Heaven are available on Rumble as well. When's your next course start?
The courses that I spoke of that are the online pre-recorded video courses are available at all times.
Oh,
and
good.
Yeah, they're all you have to do is go to findyourpathhome.com and it's right there on the front page. So they're available at all the times. Occasionally, I will run specials on them, and if you want to be notified of that, you have to just join my mailing list, and you can do that on that website. But otherwise, like I said, they're right there all the time.
And I'm sure that on your mailing list, the people who subscribe also get the updates on your shows, who your guests are going to be, and where they can actually watch or listen to the archives.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I will include the latest Stairway to Heaven and the latest Mission Evolution episode, a link to them every week in an email. So
one question you ask all your guests that I'm going to ask you: what is your mission?
That is a good one, isn't it? My mission is to, as long as I'm here, to bring the information forward to help people transcend this challenging time and become better human beings for it, and to herald a new life, a new world. I really believe we can do this, and I want to do my part. My mission is to do my part to bring the information from all these wonderful people that are available out there with it, and from the other side, if you will, to aid people during this time.
You also have written a number of books. Where are they available, GWILDA?
Oh, you can get those on my website. You can also get them on Amazon.com. I have all sorts of workbooks that go with my classes there. And then a book I wrote, it's called So We're Still Here, Now What? Spiritual evolution and personal empowerment in a new era. And it's about all of this stuff. And I also wrote a book called The Science of Magic Book of Mysteries. And it's available. They're all available on Amazon.
Gwilda, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Continued success with your two great shows. And I look forward to the next time we meet here in the X Zone. And I will speak to you tomorrow as I get ready to produce your show. So you take care of yourself, my friend.
I've got the best producer in the whole world. Thank you.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? You take care of yourself now, my dear friend. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.
And once again, if you'd like more information on GWILDA WIYAKA, all you need to do is go to 2 websites. Actually 3. For her courses, findyourpathhome.com. For Mission Evolution radio and TV show, go to missionevolution.org. And for Stairway to Heaven, stairwaytoheavenmedia.com. xzbn.net is where you can listen to all her shows. One simple address. But at least now we know what really happened to Bigfoot. WIYAKA stole him. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Kate Kunkel is going to be joining us, and it's going to be a very interesting hour. In the final hour of tonight, Bart Sabrell is going to talk to us about a deathbed confession that he recorded from someone who has first-hand knowledge about how the moon mission landing hoax was actually perpetrated. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.